Welcome to This Is Also Community. We're an online space for people who are searching for intentional community, already live in one, or are starting one. For those who are curious about this and maybe you're not in the Telegram group yet, the link is in the chat of this meeting or in the description of the recording if you're watching this later. Today, I share with you the brand new series called Field Notes. This is how we do it. The real stories and experts discuss important topics for communities. In the first edition of this series, we'll have a special masterclass by Neal Hegarty from Creasol. When Neal Hegarty from Ireland started his farm in Guatemala, he fell into the common trap, trying to grow food, build the systems, run the business, and spark a community all at once. It's an exhausting path that many, whether dreaming of a project or already living in one, know all too well. But over a decade of designing retreats, centers, education hubs, and homesteads, Neal discovered a powerful shift. The most successful.
It didn't?
Also, my phone.
Someone.
If somebody crashed into me.
I can hear your.
Nothing happened to the car, but the phone got.
Would you mind turning your? Yeah, great. Sorry about that. So I'll just start over with this part. But over a decade of designing retreat centers, education hubs, and homesteads, Neal discovered a powerful shift. The most successful regenerative projects aren't built like businesses, they're built like an ecosystem. In an ecosystem, education, design, and community don't just exist, they support and finance one another. So today he will share his framework with us and his story. And I want to tell you a little bit more about Neal Hegarty. He has years of experience in permaculture design and project management across Latin America. Neal brings a wealth of knowledge, enthusiasm, and practical insight to Creasol. He believes that true abundance is created by working with nature, not against it, and that anyone with the right tools and support can become a skilled designer capable of transforming landscapes, communities, and their own lives. I know that Neal just asked to put your camera on, but for this masterclass, I will ask you to turn your sound off and your video also off for now. At the end, we will have some time for questions, and then of course you can turn your camera back on if you have questions or if you would just like to join that way. I think that's it for now. Thank you so much. Neal, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Oh no, that means I have to give this class to an empty screen. I hate doing that.
I'm sorry,
but
for the sake of the recording,
for the sake of the recording.
really
all right, that's fair enough. Well, send me your positive, energetic vibes because I hate speaking to an empty screen. I love like seeing people's faces. It gives me a sense of what's landing. So actually something you can do for me is just like let me know in the chat, like blow up the chat just so I can kind of see what's landing, what's sticking, what's not. So look, over the next hour, I'm gonna explain to you how I think anyone in the world can start an eco community, even if they have no startup capital. Okay. I feel really confident that people can do this because it's what we did. Okay. So, and I promise you that everyone, no matter where you're at through this talk, is going to get something practical that can move us forward towards creating the type of resilient communities that I think we need. So stay with us till the end. I'm also going to be sharing a whole load of resources at the end that can just get you started. Like I say, even if you're just living in an apartment somewhere in California and you feel like this is miles away, all the way to you're ready to become a designer, I'm going to make sure that you have concrete take-home steps that can get you moving forward on this journey. And I promise you, it's going to be worth paying attention. Really what I'm trying to do here is distill down 20 years worth of lessons as somebody who left the Matrix 20 years ago with hell-bent on a vision of creating a new type of life for himself. I made so many mistakes. I nearly gave up so many times. And now I'm just really inspired to share what I've learned with the next generation so that more people can do what I won't say what we did, what we are doing in much, much less time. Okay. So, look, before we do anything, one thing I want to share is what I believe the 3 S's, what I believe the key to actually creating positive change in the world really is. It's Tony Robbins talks about these, the 3 S's: state, story, and strategy. Okay. So the reason we started this session by moving our bodies and listening to AC/DC is because what I have found is that the state you are in is going to create your future reality. So I want people that I work with, that I teach, that I mentor to take their state seriously. Okay. The next thing is the story, right? Normally at this point in an event like this, I would do a show of hands, but maybe let me know in the chat. Does anyone have this story in their head that like humans suck? We're bad for the planet. We should reduce our footprint. We should just try to be as unharmful as possible. Does anyone kind of like subscribe? Just let me know with a kind of a, yeah, like a yes or whatever, if that humans are good, humanity is toxic. Okay, good. That's a good start. No, look, a lot of people out there, that's the story they're dealing with, right? This whole tiptoe around the planet, minimize your footprint, do as little harm as possible. And what I'm here to say, starting off, is that is not an empowering story. That is not a story that's going to lead to people becoming real agents for positive change. Okay. And one of the things, the first, if people don't take anything away from this, I want them to take away the idea that humans, with the right tools, permaculture design is one of them, who are in the right state, can be an extraordinarily positive force on the planet. Okay. So, and I really, really want people to take that seriously. Okay. And then once we take being at our optimal state seriously, working out, doing breath work, eating the right kind of food, being around the right kind of people, we have the right types of empowering stories to work with, then it's just about creating a strategy, right? One of the really important things about story, which I'm going to talk about next, is that if we can truly paint in our mind's eye the story of what it is that we're trying to create, and then we can break that down into bite-sized chunks, there's actually no telling what we can do, right? And that's really what the Creasol community is all about. It's about designing through story, right? It's about getting over this just wrong idea that we're a plague on the planet. It's about understanding that story shapes landscape, right? And it's also then about helping people, once they have that story in their mind, whether it be for their own land or for their client, to represent it visually in the easiest way possible. So a lot of what we do in the early parts of our programs when we work with people, and it's part of what I'm going to be sharing today at the end, are these simple workflows that allow people to take these concepts and then represent them in a beautiful way so that they can move people to take action. And then really, like I say, create the right strategy for how to go from where you are now to what you're really imagining, what you're really seeing in your mind's eye. And what I see over and over again with people I talk to, people I work with, is they still don't really know where they're headed, right? They're still hoping that something is going to happen, that they're going to fall into the community, whatever it is that they're meant to. And it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen until we really create that story in our mind's eye. Okay.
Potentially, yes, but we're actually looking at maybe moving the venue now. to the Caribbean side because there's a
There's
conflict.
someone talking there, and it's coming through on the video. Am I the only one hearing that?
Near Puerto Viejo.
Yeah, I hear it too. It's a little bit disturbing. Could someone turn
Yeah,
it's
could everyone just make
Mate,
sure that
right?
they're on silent, because that's going to
Yeah,
be
and maybe Ariana can give me admin rights as well, just so I can do this for people in case they accidentally.
okay. Okay, well, it seems to stop now. So
Yeah.
Okay, so well, so now what I want people to do before I get into anything else is really just take a second to imagine where you'd most like to be in a year, right? Specifically, what we're looking to do is to help people to become the most valuable people in ecological communities. And by ecological communities, I mean communities that are actually resource independent, that are able to grow their own food, that are able to build networks of people who are all working in their zone of genius and doing what they love, contributing to the creation of a better planet. And what we're specifically looking to do with our school, with our online programs, with everything we're doing, is to help people to fast forward to becoming the most valuable people in those communities. Why do I say the most valuable people? Because those communities need designers. They need designers, and they need teachers. They need ecosystem engineers, right? And so I want you to just imagine that you're in that type of reality, that you're actually in a community, that you're shaping the direction that it's going in. And believe me when I say that if you follow the path that I'm gonna lay out now, that is extremely possible, right? So the story I'm going to tell now hopefully will demonstrate why I think that's possible. So I'm giving this event from our farm, Granja Siquin, in Lake Atitlán, Guatemala. So Granja Siquin is a farm, it's a community, it's a farm-to-table restaurant, it's a co-working hub, and it's an impact hub, right? But it didn't just happen overnight. It started in 2016. I had been working in the nonprofit sector in Guatemala for like the previous 8 years. I'd worked in the sustainable development sector. So I was working with mostly smallholder indigenous farmers and trying to introduce the ideas of agroecology. And I got tired of seeing every project that we work on kind of fail. I started to realize very quickly that technically what we were doing was quite simple, right? Conserving water, retaining soil, farming in a way to build biodiversity. But I saw project after project not work. And one of the reasons that I saw them not work was that there was very little emphasis, or almost no emphasis, on business training or entrepreneurship. So that prompted me and my now wife, Adriana, who's on this call, and our business partner, Jeremy, to start with Granja Siquin. And we called it Granja Siquin. Granja means farm. Siquin means, it's one of the Mayan Nawales. It symbolizes abundance, and it's characterized by the hummingbird. So you'll see our little symbol down there. And really, we wanted to farm in a way that would bring abundance to this community, and that would also be good for the local bird population. So off we went, really back then. I laugh about it now. It's like, what, 2016? So going on like 9 years ago. We were just like, we wanted to grow all of our own food, be completely resource independent, and kind of like do everything ourselves. So we got some goats, we got some chickens, we started making compost. My now wife and I lived in a little shack that I built in like 3 days. we but we started growing food and getting positive cash flow from early. And that was that was like a really great thing to realize. So even though we had like barely any infrastructure, we just made seats in the garden and we started serving breakfast and lunch with like chicken from our chickens, eggs, veggies and greens from our garden. And actually, it was a really good thing to do because it allowed us to just kind of like create momentum and learn as we went. But it wasn't a very good business model. So we started to do something else. We started to host volunteers and also teach permaculture design courses because that was something both Jeremy and I knew how to do. And we were like, well, this could generate some cash. What actually started to happen was the courses were great, but more and more people who took the courses started to be like, oh, the reason I came and took this course actually is because I bought land. Could you guys help me design it? So we started to design first landscapes and gardens, and then later houses. And then little by little, we built a whole kind of machine. So we, over the next 7 or 8 years, regenerated about 20 hectares of land in right here where we live. As Rosanna said at the start of the course, we created retreat centers, homesteads. We also got to work a lot outside of Lake Atitlán where we live, and we started to work with coffee farmers, cacao farmers, cattle ranchers, because they were seeing what we were doing and they were like, this is really cool. So little by little, we started to realize like, damn, teaching courses is as a business kind of sucks because you have to do a bunch of stuff that I was just not that interested in doing, like holding space, getting in yoga teachers, creating this whole like long 2 week experience. And we started to go much more in the direction of teaching short courses that demonstrated that this stuff actually works, and then creating like a solid call to action that people could take, right? So we started offering services like mapping, site analysis, permaculture design, and then different options around installations. In the early days, we did a lot of project management. And then later we moved more into mentorship, which is something I'm going to talk about as I go on. But it's been an incredibly exciting journey, and now these are just these are the latest designs we're doing. Now we're in this really exciting area because as we started to do this work, like Rosanna was saying, for the gringos that were coming here, for the Guatemala City folks who were coming out to this indigenous area and buying land, we always had a little bit this kind of like how do you say inquietud, like disharmony with like how do we interact more with the local community. We live in a indigenous community. Cachuquel is the main language. Spanish is the second language. There's a lot of poverty here. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of psychological issues that a lot of the people here suffer with, which makes interacting or it makes affecting change very difficult. Guatemala is one of the most polluted countries in the world. Our lake that we live in is actually dying because there's so much runoff going in there. There's so much chemical fertilizers, soaps, all these different things going in there. And so what we started to do was we started to show farmers like, look, these beautiful landscapes that we're creating, they can also work the same systems of soil conservation, terracing on contour, adding biodiversity in. It can also work for coffee farming, right? And it can work for anything. And the main thing it does is it slows down water and it stops it going into the lake, right? So we live here. in Lake Atitlán. And as you can see here, the lake is one giant cauldron where there's been a lot of deforestation, a lot of poor urban planning, and a lot of problems. And as a consequence, there's a lot of runoff water going into the lake. So we started this project where we started working with local coffee farmers and a couple of NGOs. And we were able to show that by taking streams of gray and black water from different houses and areas that had been poorly planned and turning them into resources on farmers' land, that we were able to clean the lake, but also set those farmers up with a whole new production system. And then as the demand grew for organic food in our restaurant, we were able to create a network of permaculture producers right here in the community. And it was one of those things where it was like many of the things that I've done in my life that have been worth it. It was one of those, let's just start with one project. But little by little, it starts to compound. And that's a really important kind of thing to understand. And so what's happening now actually is we just started working with the San Pedro municipality. So across the lake from us, there's a great big town, again, with the same problems that all the towns have here. Lots and lots of runoff water going to the lake. But this municipality, they have a big, huge beach area. They'd heard about what we were doing. The mayor came out with her engineers and her architects, and they looked at some of the projects that we've done, and they've actually hired us now to work as advisors in helping them to create an eco park that uses and recycles all these millions of liters of runoff water before they get to the lake. Okay, so all of this is actually possible because we just started small, right? And really what I want people to understand is there's a few secrets to it. And that's what I'm going to share now, are like the things that I wish I had understood before I went on this journey, right? Because as I'm sharing this, I'm like, wow, it all sounds so amazing. The reality is this was super hard. I lost tons of money by negotiating contracts in the wrong way, by missing small details on projects, technical things that were in hindsight easy, but in reality were like quite difficult to fix. I didn't know anything about business or entrepreneurship when I started this journey. So where we've gotten to now in 10 years, actually now looking back in it, I'm like, damn, you could send me to if I had to start all over again and you just plonked me now in London or Peru or Australia, I would just be able to take this model, I'm pretty sure, and get my own eco community going within a year, right? It doesn't need to take as long as it took me. Okay. And so what I want to share now are like, I guess, the secrets that I wish I'd known when I started off. Okay. So the first secret is you don't actually need millions of dollars to do this, right? We had 10 grand between us when we started our project, right? It was enough to, like I say, build a little shack to live in, start growing some food, get some animals, start making some compost, and host our first courses, right? And that's literally, those courses then were what led to people being like, oh, I'd love to hire you as designers, right? And that's what actually gave us the cash flow to build these two businesses together. In reality, you don't even need 10 grand, right? Because the next secret is you don't have to do everything yourself, right? So when I'm talking about this and people are like, okay, but like you knew how to design, you owned land, you had capital to invest in the land, you figured out a project management strategy. The reality is you don't need to be all of those people, right? So if I had zero money, what I would do is I would learn to design, right? Designing is designing the way we teach it in the Creasol incubator is incredibly easy. We teach people to be better designers than the architects and engineers who are ruining the world inside 3 months, right? And we do that just by giving them a way of designing which is working with nature instead of against it, right? So we make everything that we teach, we just make it so simple because it is simple. It's supposed to be simple. Most professional architects and engineers just really overcomplicate things, mostly because they're completely going against nature's principles, right? And so the first thing I would do is I would learn how to design, and then I would find a landowner that has the right kind of location and that can pull people in, right? And I would just literally go up to the landowner and I would say, hey, you've got a cool spot, you've got a nursery, you've got a cafe. How would you like to do a little permaculture design here? Maybe get a food forest going, maybe get some composting chickens, maybe maybe put in some systems that we know work. And then would you like to partner on hosting courses? And let's come up with a win-win strategy for when the people who show up to those courses want to get designs done by me, right? And I would then either teach those courses myself, or I would find someone who likes to teach and organize events, right? And then I would find someone who has an existing project management company, like a landscaping company or a building company, that thinks this stuff is cool, and I would start doing it with them, right? That would be the simplest way. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, like, how are you going to build an eco community in that? An eco community is just a community of people that function like an ecosystem. It just means, like, let's spread out the necessity of growing food between 10, 20, 30, 40 families. And let's use intelligent design to make those food growing systems intensive instead of extensive, right? The main problem with our food production system right now is it's designed to be extensive and to be able to be done by very few people, right? What we want to do is we want to create food production systems that are intensive, where we get as much food as we possibly can from small spaces, right? And we do so in a way that's beautiful, right? Or that promotes biodiversity. So that's what I would do. I would build that ecosystem. That's actually what we've done here is we've retrospectively built that ecosystem, right? And we're now building a team. We're training more designers, we're training more teachers, and we're finding more project managers to collaborate with because there is so much work to actually do, right? And there's so much of a demand for it to be done. And the next thing, really, the next secret I want people to realize is regeneration can be profitable, right? So one of the reasons I kind of got obsessed with this was I was like, I saw so many places so many permaculture places, like in Costa Rica is like amazing for this, but really all over the world. And their only kind of business model is teaching courses, right? They kind of get like a herb spiral, a garden, they plant some trees, and they're like, oh, I know, we'll do permaculture design courses. We'll do these 2-week intensive courses where you have, um, you know, yoga teachers, and it's kind of a retreat, and we'll teach a bunch of metaphysics, and we'll get everybody to like design a system at the end of the course, and we'll charge like $2,000 or $3,000 for that, and we'll do that like 4 times a year or whatever. And so we'll become a retreat center, right? And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but like how many places can actually do that, right? So what I became obsessed with was the economics of permaculture, right? And what I became obsessed with developing were systems that actually work. And I'm going to talk about a few of them now, right? And people who want more details on that, Ananda's going to share a link in the group. I also shared it by email, where with a whole playlist that goes into that's on our website that goes into detail on these systems, right? So the first one that I just love is the composting chicken house and food forest. So we've built so many of these over the years for ourselves on our farm and for our clients. It's simply a food forest, right? Where you plant like a harmonious arrangement of fruit trees and biomass producing plants and flowers that can exist in a kind of healthy configuration. And you integrate these composting chicken houses into them, right? And what those look like is you make the floor of the chicken house and the area outside it into a compost pile. This is an unbelievably effective way of building soil. But the way we do it, we turn our food waste into soldier flies. We ferment the feed for the chickens in microorganisms, and we do a couple of other tricks. We grow a lot of food for the chickens in the food forest area. And so what we end up with is meat and eggs that we can sell for 2 to 3 times the going rate. But because we're producing so many bugs for the chickens, because we're fermenting their food, because of a bunch of other things that are actually in the video on the website, we're able to do that for like half the normal cost. Okay, so we're actually able to go out to farmers and be like, look, this is the type of system that would allow you to start building soil, but more importantly, that will allow you to start making money and having cash flow, right? This is like this is the heart of our farm, our SCOBY factory. So we take like kombucha SCOBYs, we ferment the feed in it. There's way more stuff on this on the actual website. We take biochar that we make in our sauna, and we inoculate the feed with it. We breed soldier flies, right? So in this soldier fly bin, again, all of this stuff is like on the website, so you guys can just look at it. But these are the types of systems where suddenly people are like, okay, so I don't have to be like a saint to want to do permaculture. Look at all those bugs that just like grow for free in your food waste, right? Another one that we've done for ourselves and for a bunch of other people is the biochar making sauna, right? This video went viral recently, but this is just a simple cob sauna with a cold plunge outside. They're incredibly simple to build. They make huge difference to the like quality of life in a community. But because of the way we built it, we're able to use less firewood while we make this incredibly valuable activated carbon that we can use to build soil. And when I say these things are profitable, these are the types of systems. A lot of what we teach our students are how to master simple installations that can just rapidly improve the lives and the situations of either their clients or themselves, right? So this is one of those. Integrated water management systems, right? So I'm just anyone who like listens to me talk for a while realizes that I'm obsessed with water, right? So you know the way there's all this stuff out there of like, oh my God, we're losing biodiversity and there's so much carbon in the air and there's cows farting and someone told me that golf courses are evil and I don't know what to eat and it's like I don't even know what to do. Maybe I should just kill myself. Actually, the real problem in the world, the real keystone problem in the world is water, right? So all of those farmland, all that farmland where we just have these big monocultures, the real problem is that the water goes too quickly over the surface. Those areas used to be surrounded with forests that caused the water when it fell to sink into the ground right where it fell. And that meant that you get a short water cycle, where water evaporates then from the trees back up in and then falls right back down again and then gets trapped and infiltrated again. By removing all those trees and replacing them with monocultures of grain and cities that are poorly planned, we've broken the water cycle. And really our main job as living beings on this planet is to repair that water cycle. And the best way to repair it is with small, simple solutions, right? Like natural ponds that harvest roof water, like swales and belts of trees that prevent runoff, like terraces, like ponds, and like gray and black water systems, right? So simple systems, send your toilet water into a septic tank, send the overflow from that through perforated pipe and turn it into assets and resources right here on your land. This one right here is mostly what we're doing with the local coffee farmers. We're taking flows of dirty water and we're intercepting them before they get down into the rivers and then go into the lake. And we're turning them into permanent irrigation systems on people's land. Increases yield, everybody wins, right? The next thing to really think about in terms of like helping people get eco communities off the ground is modular economic housing. Okay, so these are some of the houses that we built last year. I did a ton of natural building over the years, right? I built houses for my clients out of adobe, out of bajareke, wattle and daub, stone, rammed earth. I did all these different techniques. One of the problems I kept running into was how long it took to build the houses, right? So what do I mean by that? It's like, okay, it's great. You can build a house out of earth, and that's brilliant if you want to do it yourself and you're just like, I'm going to build a house with my kids. Like, it's going to be great. It's going to take a year, whatever. But if you're an entrepreneur, and especially if you're in a country like Guatemala, you're an entrepreneur, you're a designer, and you also want to find a way of building that allows you to pay the people who build the houses proper money. Then spending 2 years or a year and a half building a house isn't really going to work. So we looked a lot at different building styles, and what we eventually came up with was this way of creating bamboo frames. Bamboo is just incredible in countries like this. In 3 years, it grows into like 7, 8, 9 meter posts. It can be cut and treated in a way that means it'll last just as long as pine or cypress or whatever. And we found a way of popping up these units really, really quickly. And then instead of like filling in the walls with a heavy material, which in a climate like this is just not necessary, we make walls out of split bamboo and then we plaster over the outside of it, right? And then instead of trying to like build a whole house with the bathroom and the kitchen and all the rest of it contained under one roof, which means you need to spend a lot on foundations, on other things. We're building in a way where we're spreading out these things, where we're creating like semi-outdoor, indoor areas, solar water heater. And so we're making cabins like this become extremely affordable. Now, again, for landowners, for someone who owns land and is looking to actually regenerate it in a way that's going to create long-term wealth, if you as a designer are able to come along and be like, look, you definitely are going to be able to grow a lot of food. You're definitely going to be able to do all these amazing things for the ecosystem. You're definitely going to be able to harvest all this water, create all this biodiversity, do all these other things. But you also need to make money. So I think one of the first things we should do is get some lightweight, beautiful housing up on your site and maybe a vegetable garden. And I think we should start getting you a positive cash flow and a passive income from your land so that you can take that money and slow and direct some of it into the rest of the project. Because these are 5, 10, 20-year projects, right? But basically, the system is that it's design, teach, and create an engine, create an organization and an ecosystem that can have real impact in the area that you're in. Okay? So, and this is the model that I most want people to understand. And the other thing I really want people to understand is you do not need to move to Guatemala to do this. You can create I think one of the most promising areas in the world right now is the suburbs, right? So I'll tell you guys a story about this real quick. I was up in Austin teaching a course on permaculture like 6 months ago. And the landowner has this great big ranch. It's so dry, it's so hot, he has no water. And he was like, what do you think we need to do to to be fully food sovereign here? And I was just like, wow, we just need to we're gonna have to dig some swales. We're gonna have to let nature do its thing, but you have so little water, it's so hot. This is gonna be really, really challenging. And it was almost kind of like depressing until I went back into urban Austin and I was like, wait, there's millions of liters of water flowing through each of these houses every year. And there's tons of green spaces around them. And it suddenly hit me like a train. I was like, this is where people in Austin should be farming. Actually regenerating a lot of farmland in places like Texas, where there's no water, in places like Southern Europe, where just desertification is a massive issue. That's going to take a long time. It can be regenerated. It will regenerate. Actually, some of it won't regenerate on its own. It'll need help. It'll need help doing that. But for now, a lot of the places we should be farming are the places we've already got water. And so I really want people to understand that if you're in a suburb or you're in a city, you can create eco communities right there just by turning lawns into ecosystems that capture water and grow food. Yeah. So, but that's the basic model. Teach, design, host events, repeat. And for people who want to do this, I believe is the fastest growing market in the world right now. So I just want to pause there really quick and see if there's any questions before I go on, because I know we're going to run out of time pretty quick.
There was not really a question, but yes, so we don't have to move to the middle of nowhere to start a community, more an affirmation, but still, this was a surprise by Leo who posted this in the chat.
100% not. What is a community? A community is just a group of people who share the same values, right? And if you take 10 families in a suburban or even urban area who each have access to, say, between a tenth of and half an acre, if you actually design that properly, you can grow a shit ton of food, right? And then community just means, how do we use that food? Do we get together and cook regularly? What are we teaching our kids? Blah, blah, blah. And really, permaculture just means that if we design and manage our resources properly, that a more permanent, more ecological culture can emerge from that process.
The question about this was, how do you get access to that water from the suburbs? Aren't government water companies defensive about their plumbing systems?
I believe in asking for forgiveness instead of permission. Right? Firstly, people are getting screwed there. People who are paying taxes to have their water immediately removed from the property, that's a terrible system. So I just wouldn't respect it. To me, I would just consider that to be a violation of my human rights, and I just would not adhere to it. But I also wouldn't tell anybody that I'm doing it. It's not very difficult from a technical point of view to dig into the ground and find where wastewater is flowing out and then to use it, right? Like I find it almost impossible to believe that anyone's actually going to pick up on somebody doing that, right?
So as an example, your dishwashing water, that piping, you would just lead that to maybe a giant container or tub or whatever.
Giant not even. I would lead it to a grey water garden that takes the soaps out of it, and then I would lead it from there to a passive irrigation system, right? Like I say, water is really the whole thing, right? If we get serious, all healthy ecosystems are really just a huge storage of water and sunlight, right? And all modern ecosystems, like i.e. cities, modern farmland, et cetera, breaks that law, right? So all of those, all modern cities seek to send water almost as quickly as possible out of the watershed because they think that once it's been used once, it's no longer useful. Or they think that they believe that people aren't intelligent enough to treat that water, and so they take it all and they spend millions of dollars treating it, right? Millions of dollars of taxpayer money treating it, right? That's a terrible idea, right? And I think as a transition move, like I say, focusing on turning these kind of suburban and urban landscapes into water harvesting, food producing ecosystems is just going to be, it's going to be incredibly necessary because not everybody can transition straight into, living like on a mountain in Guatemala like we are. Not yet anyway.
Neal, we have 2 more questions in the chat. You said there was more that you wanted to share?
Yeah, a little bit. I wanted to share how people can work with us if they're inspired to. Can I get a show of hands in the group? Who here can imagine themselves going on and actually becoming a permaculture designer and getting a regenerative business off the ground? I see Tommy, I see Leo, I see Mate, I see Annie. Okay. Okay, so quite a few of you then. Simon, amazing. All right. Who here owns land that they're interested in designing? Looks like quite a few of you as well.
3 hands.
Well, do you want to deal with will we do the questions first,
No,
Rosanna,
I
and then
think
I'll
it would
explain
be
how
good for you to tell us, and if that's okay with people, we will go answer your questions at the end, if that's okay.
at the end. Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, so the way our programs work is we take people and we essentially reduce the journey we went on in over 10 years down to a year, right? We have 3 pillars to our program, and the overarching goal is to become an ecosystem engineer who can get paid to create regenerative eco communities anywhere in the world. Okay, so the first pillar to that is the professional permaculture designer accelerator. Now, this is for trainee designers. It's also for landowners, right? So we work a lot of the time with landowners who just want a design done for their place. If anyone's ever done a permaculture design course, really what it is it's a 2-week immersion course where people get all of the ideas in a permaculture course in the permaculture design curriculum thrown at them, and then they get a little bit of a design to do over 2 or 3 days. We take that process and we extend it out over 3 months. And the goal is for either landowners or trainee designers to produce a high quality professional design that they've done themselves with the guidance of us and our community. And as they've done it, they've learned our full mapping and site analysis system, our AI rendering workflow. So the workflow that we use to produce the designs that I showed you at the start of the presentation. And then we also give people the templates that allow them to either secure funding or investment. Now, this is huge. There's in Europe and the States right now, there's shit tons of funding, even in Guatemala, there's shit tons of funding available for projects that can show that they are increasing biodiversity, building soil, sequestering carbon, yada, yada. Also, there's shit tons of people queuing up to invest in regenerative real estate projects. So we have templates that people can use for either of those, right? The second pillar to our program, and like I say, some people are just going to want to design their place, do it themselves, and stay with that skill set. People who are really serious about it, the second pillar to our program is storytelling and teaching systems. So here, what we want people to do typically is take their first design and then build a course out of implementing it. Okay, so Tommy, you've just designed the place in California. You've designed the land of a friend of yours who owns a kind of a public facing place. He's like, Tommy, I love your design. How the hell am I going to actually do this? I only have like 10 grand to give to this, and this design is massive. And now you're able to say to him, well, how about we put on a course and we teach all the people around here and the kids and everyone else how this stuff works by changing your place. The best way to teach people is actually to transform land. So we give you everything you need to design a curriculum, the promotional materials you need to actually fill that event and all your future events, right? And then we give you everything you need, the value ladder, so that when you do create your pipeline of clients, that you're ready to go. Because once you host your first event, if you do it properly, you're almost guaranteed to have 10 or 20 people there who are like, can you help me design my place next? Right? And this is how we build community, right? This is how we get around this issue of like, oh, fuck, it's so expensive. People want to learn this stuff. It took me 10 years to figure this out. People want to learn this stuff. The only way to learn it is to actually do it. And so when I say we want to turn people into the most valuable people in eco communities, I mean it. Okay, so that's pillar 2. And then pillar 3 is about once people have those 2 basic skills, they can design and they can host events. It's about business coaching, you guys. So I spent years running around like an idiot, trading all my time for money. Eventually, I asked for help and got the kind of guidance and business coaching I needed. So the third part of our third pillar of our program is regenerative business coaching, right? It's how to form long-lasting partnerships between landowners, designers, and contractors. It's how to build a brand and an online presence that can grow and scale. And a big part of what we do in that is we include our content creation playbook and all of the trainings that I learned over the last 3 or 4 years that have allowed me to kind of build this brand where I'm now getting invited to collaborate with Hollywood celebrities, blah, blah, blah. This is the stuff that I learned from my business coach, who has like a $20,000 business coaching platform that's really designed to let people like live anywhere they want, generate leads, do sales, all of that kind of stuff. We actually include all of that training and those trainings in our package because I realized that I desperately want people who care about permaculture and eco community to learn these skills so that they can stop living in cities. We eventually, even though I'm saying the landing point is, or the you can create eco community in the suburbs, where I want people to get to is I want them to get to the point where they can completely pull out of cities by undervalued land that has water on it and create real communities that are capable of feeding hundreds or thousands of people. And one of the things that's necessary to do that is to have a good, solid understanding of the fundamentals of business and online businesses and paid communities. So that's actually included. That $20,000 training is just kind of like a bonus in our whole thing. And then people can do our course. The 3 pillars with the business coaching is a year-long program. But people can also come and do part of that program at the farm, right? So that means that you can come, you can stay at the farm, you can join in the real projects that we're doing. You can join in on our one-day courses and gain experience as a teacher. You can shadow us in the projects that we're actually managing and designing in. And well, while we value that at $10,000 and we value the whole program at $21,000, we're currently giving it away for $6,000, the whole year-long program, plus $500 per month to join our residency program, right? And so if people are interested in that, we are open to applications. We have a really great community going at the moment, and we're only able to take probably 3 or 4 more people into it for now. But if you're serious about it, and even if you're like, oh my God, I would love that, but I have no money, book a call. Ananda is going to drop my calendar link into the chat there. We have different ways of meeting people where they're at. One of them, for people who really qualify and take the time to fill in the application form, one of them is we have ways that allow people to actually pay for their tuition by finding their first clients, and we'll actually do the whole sales process for people who fit the bill. Okay, so that's how our program works. That's how you can join it. If it's not for you, Ananda should, if you're just like, yeah, this is cool, but I'm not really ready to start, we have a whole amazing free resources library. So Ananda in the chat should have shared by now a link to a landing page. On there, we've got detailed videos of all of the systems that I talked about just now. The composting chicken house, the biochar sauna, the design workflow, the approach to water. We have also mini courses on there on composting and gardening, literally everything you need to be able to build soil like a pro and garden, because we want people to just start doing these things. And actually, believe it or not, I promise you there's systems in there that you could actually just start building businesses around tomorrow for free. Okay, so we're very serious, just like Rosanna is, about building community. Ananda would also have shared the link to our WhatsApp community for anyone who's not in there already. That's just a great place to connect with like-minded individuals and to stay connected. So that's the little spiel there. Hopefully we have time for some questions.
Hello.
And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Neal. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. Since you really like seeing people's beautiful faces, if they feel called to
please turn on your cameras
their
again.
cameras back on. And we probably we're a bit over time, but for those who still have time to stay here, maybe we can take 5 to 10 minutes for some questions. There were 2 questions already asked in the chat, and I'd like to give them some priority. Mate said, I hope I say your name correctly, can you please share a bit more about how do you partner up with a landowner in case you don't have access to land?
Yeah, like honestly, this is the whole thing. So when I say to people that, like, if you're desperate to take this program and you're like, I fucking really want to take it, but I don't have any money, this is where it's at. It's find a landowner, right, who wants to get a permaculture design done for their place, right? These are types of people who maybe have a farm, who maybe own a nursery or a coffee shop, right? And you're like, you could probably put a veggie garden over there and a greenhouse and, do some cool permaculture stuff. Would you be interested in me designing that for you, right? That's your first step. If they're interested, you can actually get them on the phone to us, and we'll help you to negotiate that partnership, right? Because what the partnership is eventually going to look like is, okay, how about we help you design it? how about we start organizing courses and events where we show the people around this area all the cool things they could be doing with their land, right? Once you show them that, you now own a pipeline of clients. We don't want people to go straight into teaching those courses. We want them to get their skills as a designer down first. So that's why we want them to design that landowner's land. Then we want them to develop their curriculum. Then we want them to follow our formula on filling events, right? And then we want them to be able to, just like I did now, finish the event, deliver massive value, and then present a value ladder. Say anyone who's interested in turning their house or their land into a food producing ecosystem, which if enough of us do it, will heal the planet. This is how we can start. This is your first step. We do mapping and site analysis. Your maps look like this. Your site analysis looks like this. It would normally cost this if you got a professional engineer to do it, but I do it like this. How are we able to give people that competitive edge? Because we've got a tech stack that we've spent the last 15 years figuring out. We give it to you. Right? Then they're like, oh shit, I really like that. Could you design it for me? Sure, absolutely. I'm a member of a design community where all of my designs are peer reviewed by Neal plus everyone else in the community. So you don't even have to worry about the fact that I'm just starting out on this. I'll do a design. Cool, I love the design. How do we implement it? Well, we have a bunch of options. There's a landscaping company that I actually collaborate with. They can do it on a contract, or I can mentor you through. And there's a contract to be developed for each of those, right? And then, like I say, a big thing that I'm seeing people, more and more people doing, this works even better if the original landowner has either a nursery, compost production, something where they can be providing the inputs to these landowners. Does that make sense?
Neal. Yeah, makes sense, definitely. We had another question from Liana. What about, this was when you were talking about water and water retention. She asked, what about countries where there's too much water and soil has too much of it?
Which countries?
Scotland.
Um, so the evidence for the fact that there's too much water in Scotland is presumably flooding and mold, correct? Right. So why does flooding happen in certain places? It happens because the water moves too quickly over the land in other places, right? So if you have flooding happening down here, that means you're not storing enough water, you're not slowing enough water down up here. So our farmland, our cities and towns that are up here, they need to do water retention. They need to slow that water down so that it doesn't all just dump down on top of the areas that are flooding, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I saw something similar like that in Austria. They built kind of like cascades that they're holding the water. It's just when you have a land on the bottom of the hill and the top of the hill is not yours, like, what do you do there?
You start a permaculture design business and you start going up to the people on the top of the hill and explaining to them that by dumping their water down on top of you, they're actually losing money.
There was another, is this answer your question, Liana?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. There was another question. How do you find the right people to partner with and how to make everybody get along together in the eco community? That last question is enough material for 10 more of these master classes. So I doubt that Neal can go deeply into that question, but definitely the
I'll
partnership.
answer it really quick.
Mhm.
There's really only a few things that are important in my book. One is look after yourself, and then look after as many people and places as you can, right? And then set extremely high standards for yourself in terms of how you treat people, how you treat land, and demand that the people around you adhere to those standards. And anyone who doesn't can go fuck themselves. But over there.
But the first part of that question, how do you find the right people to partner with?
Set the standard yourself. So you have to set the standard yourself, right? In terms of what you're doing. You have to become so partnerships go wrong, just like relationships, when people are trying to get saved by someone. Right? Where you're kind of like, oh, maybe we could partner, and I'm not really sure what it is we're going to do, but you're good at marketing, and maybe you can get me out of this hole I'm in. That is a recipe for disaster, right? What you want to do is you want to be super clear. I am going to become the best permaculture designer in California. I'm also going to become a really good teacher. I don't have land, and I'm not very good at marketing. Okay, I need someone with land and someone who's good at marketing. I know exactly who I need and why, right? And now I can like actively look for those people with those skill sets.
Thank you, Neal. We are kind of over time, but if there's still one voice that wants to be heard, I would love to open it up for that person.
Look, I'll just leave it here. I think Anne has a question before people drift off. My calendar link is up there. If you're at all interested in this, just book a call, right? At the very least, I'm happy to take half an hour for everyone who showed up today, just to give you some actionable next steps. Even if you're just like, look, dude, there's no way I'm doing your program. But I really want to like make a 5-year plan to get out of where I am now and get to here. That's my gift to everyone here. So book a call, and then if I do think you're a good fit for the program, we can find a way of making it work.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was very enlightening. Thank you everyone for joining. The recording will be posted probably tomorrow in the Telegram group. This is also community. And Neal, will you also be emailing it in the next couple of days to the people who signed up?
The recording. I normally don't do
Okay.
that, to be honest. I normally don't do that because I'm just like, is anyone actually going to watch a recording of a Zoom conversation? Look, if you join, did everyone get the link to our WhatsApp community?
I don't know
Yeah?
if that was shared. Was it? Yeah, it was shared.
It was shared. Okay. As well as Rosanna's community, join our community, because we do these types of events and we do Instagram lives. I'm going to share our Instagram as well in case you didn't get it. So at Creasol Permaculture. So that's our Instagram in case you don't follow us. And with the what do you call it? The WhatsApp community. We do these types of events every couple of months, and we also do kind of Instagram lives pretty regularly. Oh, there's and so I always look at these events as like a chance to meet people and hang out. Right? Like that's why I tend to hang out for a while afterwards, like answer questions, talk to people. I always put like an extra half an hour in my calendar longer than the call is scheduled for. And we're really serious about just giving information away, right? Like we do have our
free resources as well on your website.
Tons of it, because we're not into like gatekeeping information. We know we're really just like, our paid programs are for people who are like, okay, I want to do what Neal did in 10 years in a year, right? And then it's like, okay, great, join our program. If you want to do what I did in 10 years in like 5 years, then the free resources on the program should like help you to do that, right? So The accelerator program is literally that. It's an accelerator program, but we're really serious about just giving away a lot of other stuff because like I say, I think this is the fastest growing industry in the world. I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that we need to regenerate the earth. We need to do so in an intelligent way. We need to build businesses out of that. And so there's an incredible opportunity out there for people. And I want people to take it because I'm a father. I'm going to be here for like 30 or 40 more years and then I'm gone. But I want the reason this community started is I want more people to start these types of communities. Okay. Anne, did you have a question?
I can't hear you if you're trying to say something, Anne. And if not, I invite Anne to join your WhatsApp group and to ask the question there, right, Neil? Or
Yeah,
also
exactly.
in the Telegram group this is also community.
Hey,
Hey, Anne.
hey, hi, how are you? Hey, sorry, yeah, no, I'll probably book a call. Yeah. Well, one question I had was, you talked about in Lake Atitlán, there's a lot of like trauma and so on. I lived in Costa Rica for 20 years, and I had no I mean I don't know much about the environment in Guatemala. I was
Yes.
curious about that.
Okay, well, Guatemala is one of the most polluted countries in the world. It's
Right.
also a country where about 50% of the people are indigenous. Where there's 23 different languages spoken here. The indigenous population here have been through a series of extremely traumatic events, right? Going back to the original colonization of the land 500 years ago. A lot of people come here with an overly romanticized view of their culture and believing that like they're the gatekeepers to wisdom and actually, if you look at it in their original teachings, that's why we call our farm Grancy Keen. Their original teachings have extremely big amounts of wisdom in them, but almost all of them have been completely disconnected from that heritage and from those traditions. And now, in areas like Lake Atitlán, the amount of environmental destruction that's being caused is really worrying, right? And like I always talk about with environmental destruction, a lot of it is just it's actually just trauma response, right? They're not cognizant of the fact that they're actually part of nature because they're so disconnected, they're so out of their bodies, and rebuilding that requires building up a lot of trust, which is what we've been working on for the last like 10 or 12 years. Building up real relationships, real friendships, not coming here with this kind of like white savior mentality that a lot of people come here with.
Yeah.
And now, thankfully, we've gotten to a point where the local governments, the local indigenous leadership want to work with us because they've been seeing what we've been doing and they've been seeing that it works.
That's amazing.
So we've started it. One of the things that we're doing here, we've started a volunteer program, which goes hand in hand with our training program. So the people who are in our training program and who are in our residency program take on a leadership position in the design and regeneration of local indigenously owned land. And the volunteer program is for people who just want to have like a new type of experience. So what we're creating is an alternative because we live in a touristy area. So our idea is if we can get 0.01% of the tourists that come here to, instead of going getting drunk in one of the towns or going and partying and doing cocaine or going and doing an ayahuasca ceremony with whoever the shaman of the moment is, that they can actually come here and do something that's really useful, like plant trees on indigenously owned land. And then, like I say, our trainees, people who are training to become ecosystem builders and living here in our residency program, take on leadership positions in that. So Ananda, who's gone now, is in that program. Youssef is in that program. So that's what we're doing. Oh, there's Ananda.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And it's also then we want other organizations to get to that point, right? We want Tommy to start working with someone in California who has land, start doing his first project, but then eventually create a whole movement around what he's doing.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. You're impulsing the business side. I like it. Thank you.
You got to include that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Leave
for the
anything out, it
question, Anne.
becomes a
And there are so many more things that I would love to ask Neal, but maybe we should do another session another time. We're already quite a lot of time over, and I want to honor everyone's time. Feel free to ask Neal questions in the Telegram group. This is also community, or in Neal's own WhatsApp group. Thank you so much for joining today and for your time and your great questions. And thank you so much, Neal, for sharing all your knowledge with us today.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure. Hopefully talk to a bunch of you soon. Bye-bye.